of a podcast where we empower your physical, social, spiritual, and economic health. Consume this content every week with positive energy and good intentions. Join me, De'Von Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and my starlit queen, Sinclair, Theee Health Nerd, and share this with those you love. You are strong, you are beautiful, and you are ready to live your best life. Look, beautiful people. It's a beautiful day. Amazing day, as we were talking about earlier, right? And we appreciate y'all for tuning in to another amazing and impactful episode of the True Health Forever podcast, where we try to live our best life through the lens of holistic health. I'm your host, De'Von Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and it is my honor to introduce you to the beautiful, the smiling, the curl-rific choreography health coach herself, my bride. Talk to him.
What is up, everybody? My name is Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd, and here joining you on a Monday. This is the first. This is the first for us on a Monday morning. All turned around. But yes, it's a beautiful day. Glad to be here, and especially with our special guest.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Before we get into it, hit on with the did you know for the day.
So, did you know that upwards of 75% of the population is lactose intolerant? Which look,
approve.
Which basically means that we do not have the enzyme that allows us to digest lactose, which is a sugar. So, many of us have probably experienced this, right? You get a big bowl of ice cream or whatever, and then afterwards you quickly regret it, right? Whether it's gas or bloating. And we may think that this is just our body, right? It's just quote unquote normal. But after doing that so much, right, on a daily basis, we actually start to cause a lot of damage inside, a lot of metabolic dysfunction. And this can lead to some symptoms that we may not even trace back to our dairy consumption, right? This can be weight gain, this can be acne, this can be hormonal imbalance, right? And the list goes on. Things that, again, we may not contribute back to dairy, but you'll never really know unless you experiment a little bit with your diet and maybe pull some of that out, maybe limit that for a little bit. So there's so many good alternatives out there, which is great. But, I challenge you to maybe 2022, maybe try it for a little bit, experiment with your diet and see how it goes for you.
There it is. That is the did you know for the day. And I loved how you tied that in, because our guest today, right, talks about some of the 7 foods that you should eliminate out of your diet. And lactose, right, is definitely one of those. We have a 4-time New York bestseller, triple certified health person in the building, and a warrior mom herself. We are about to introduce y'all to the legendary JJ Virgin Queen. Are you ready?
Are you ready for some podcast?
All right, we're out. Let's go ahead and groove it in. There she is, Miss JJ. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm sitting over here jealous of Sinclair's voice. That's what's going on. That's already like, holy smokes.
Thank you.
Oh, no, now there's no stopping her now.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Oh, no.
Trouble now.
Oh, I know I am. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's get into it, right? So your new book, Warrior Mom, right, is really focusing in on the 7 secrets to bold and brave resilience, and how moms can really uplift their superpower, right? So can you tell us a little bit about your superhero origin story? And we were watching Avengers yesterday, right? So heroes are top of mind right now, but literally we are sitting here with a real life Shiro, someone who saves lives and has saved her son's life. So can you talk a little bit about your origin story that led you down this path?
Well, here's what's interesting about that book. That book was not originally titled Warrior Mom. And I couldn't figure out what to title it. And it was going to be published. So they're like, you just get a title already, right? And about 6 months into it being published, I was doing an interview and they said, we had to have you on here. You're a warrior mom. And I'm like, there's the title. So you can retitle books if you want to, just so you know, because the minute you say that, every parent gets it. And, I think anyone who's a parent will understand this story. And I hear people say, I could never do that. However, I believe you never know what you're capable of until you're called, and that we're really never better than when we're challenged. And I get this story. Early on, I was watching this movie. It's a really old movie called Seventh Sign. Have you heard of this movie?
Seventh Sign.
Yeah, no. So it's really old. It was a movie by Demi Moore. And basically, she had to show before she could have a child. She'd miscarried the first time. And it was like the sign from God that if she was willing to die for her child, she could have it. And I remember, when I was pregnant the first time, walking down the street, just thinking, I will do whatever it takes to protect my kids. And I think any parent, it's warrior mom because I'm a mom, but it could be warrior dad, right? It could probably be warrior aunt or warrior uncle as well. So I have 2 boys, and when they were 15 and 16, and it was literally when my first big book, The Virgin Diet, was coming out, like 6 weeks before this book was coming out, getting launched, my son was crossing the street at dusk and got hit. And literally all we know is that the car appeared to be going like 40 miles an hour. And the woman stopped the car, got out of the car, looked back, gasped, and drove off. That's all anybody knows. Another neighbor pulled up and protected him from oncoming traffic and called 911. We didn't even know this was happening. The only reason we discovered it was my ex-husband and other son were driving by this accident scene, saw all of this, knew Grant had gone out walking, asked the policeman what had happened. And the policeman said a boy got hit and he looked just like him, because my kids are a year apart. They look like twins. And so we all raced to the hospital. They won't give us any information. All we'd known is that he was airlifted. And you know that people do not get airlifted if their leg is broken. We get in there and we get ushered to a conference room. So now it's really looking bleak. And the doctor proceeds to tell us that my son has a torn aorta, and he is going to die sometime in the next 24 hours, that every hour the chance it's going to rupture increases by 10%. Then he says, we can't fix that here because he's got multiple brain bleeds. He's in a deep coma and we'd have to use a blood thinner. It's a very specialized surgery. We'd have to fly him to the next hospital in LA, but he'll never survive the airlift. And even if he were to survive the airlift, he'd never survive the surgery. And even if he were to survive the surgery, I cannot make this up, right? Even if you were to survive the surgery, he says this, and any parent listening, this will upset you, says he will be so brain damaged it wouldn't be worth it. Now, my 15-year-old son's looking. Now, here's why you got to teach your kids to respect authority, but question authority, right? And to get second opinions. And the fortunate thing is my family is most of my friends are doctors. My ex-husband's whole family are doctors. So we didn't have the doctor on the pedestal thinking this is the only opinion, he is God. We listened to this. My son Bryce looks at the doctor and says, well, it sounds like maybe there's a 0.25% chance he'd make it. And the doctor says, yeah, that sounds about right. And he goes, well, we'll take those odds. That's not zero. Right. And and the bigger real thing that happened is that at that point, I kind of took a break, walked outside. I've always been super connected from the moment. I remember the moment I was pregnant with Grant. Literally the next morning I get up, I tell my husband, I say, we're having a baby. It's a boy. And he's like, you're crazy. Yeah, nope, sure enough. I always knew. I always could feel him. And so I walk outside and I said, Grant, what do you want me to do? Because, you're in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen. You might have someone who's in a coma for the rest of their life, who's a vegetable. And I go, what do you want me to do? And I heard so clearly, fight for me. And so that's what I did. I walked back in. We overruled that doctor. We had him airlifted to the next hospital. We went to a place called Harbor UCLA. It's the #2 trauma center in the country. And the doctor there was amazing. Like we walked in and the guy's like, I got this. I do this all the time. I've had people thrown off the overpasses. I fix them up. You don't even need to worry about it. And meanwhile, what I didn't know about this doctor is throughout the night, because this had happened in the evening, and between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., this man recruited 5 other surgical teams. He recruited a stint that was no longer, it was part of a study, wasn't even available anymore, but he knew it was the right one. It was also only available for adults. He said, I figured I'd ask for forgiveness. This is the guy that you want on your team, right? So he did the surgery. He's like, listen, you go. He showed me where the waiting room is. You go hang out there. I'll be back and tell you everything was fine. And my ex-husband, John, and I were like, okay, that sounds good to us. We went up there. We hung out. He comes up. He goes, all right, it's all good. He's all fixed. Don't need to worry about his aorta anymore. He goes, now I don't know if he'll ever wake up. I'm just the plumber. So you're like high, low, right? And we go to the neurosurgeons who are like doom and gloom. We don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I went into the hospital where, into the room where he was, and he was on the ICU ward over at Harbor UCLA. And he's in the corner and there's sun coming through and he's on all these machines. He's on a ventilator and they're managing his blood pressure. So there's all this beeping and alarms going off. And I could literally only hold one finger. He'd had 13 fractures. He's got road rash. He's got, all these bandages. So I got this finger and I said, Grant, we're here. We love you so much. And the nurse is like, he's in a coma. Like he can't respond. And then I said, and your brother Bryce loves you. And I feel the faintest little squeeze. And I'm like, And then I think I am delirious, right? Like, clearly I'm crazy. And then I said, your grandma loves you so much. Nothing. And I said, your girlfriend, Mackenzie, misses you and loves you. And he tried to, I could feel him trying to pick my fingers off the bed. And that's when I just looked at him. I went, Grant, it turns out, how crazy is this? His name means warrior. So I go, Grant, you're a warrior. You just need to fight. I will get all the resources and you're going to be 110%. And that is just what I focused on from that minute on. And there was no indication, by the way, you guys, that he was going to be alive the next day, much less 110%, right? They didn't know if he'd wake up. They didn't know if when he woke up, if he'd be able to move, if he'd be here, if he'd see, nothing. I mean, he literally had been basically dead on the pavement and both of his femurs broken in half. I mean, he had casts, everything. But I just took that mantra on and 4.5 months in the hospital. It took about 8 years to bring him to the point where I could say, yes, he's 110%. He's better than before the accident. But the bigger thing with that is he's not just the only one who's 110%. The entire family is 110%, because when you go through something like this and think about it, I can't recall any day in my life where everything went perfect. Maybe someone sent me flowers or a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes. And, and I went, gosh, I grew so much today. Like I become a better person. You become a better person. You become more resilient. When you are tested, right? When you are challenged. And at the time, you're not going, oh boy, I'm going to become a better person. Like that did not once run through my mind. Oh, lucky me. But, as I went through it and just held on to that 110% belief and leaned into getting help and community, like you look back and it's very hard to freak me out or scare me at this point now.
That's powerful, right? The huge origin story. And I want to talk about that moment. I think that was the pivotal moment when you walked outside of the hospital and somehow you heard Grant's voice, right? You heard that warrior voice inside of you that said, fight for me. How do you teach or how do you practice being able to listen to the inner voice, whether it's your inner voice, whether it's the voice of the universe, the voice of your kids? How do you find that peaceful warrior pose? Look at that. I do yoga from time to time.
Me too. Okay. So, here's what's interesting. I had a mentor at the age of 30 who told me all of these things that when I wrote Warrior Mom, people kept asking, where did you learn how to do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And all of a sudden, a year after that, I went, oh my gosh, it was all Kay Smith and her mindset training. It was a woman who I thought was going to teach me how to have a successful business. By the way, business, relationships, they all start with having the right mindset. And one of the things she taught me then was, and I remember she would have these statements and you'd go, oh, that's too simple. Her statement was, listen, truly listen. Now, for a while, that for me meant putting up a big sign on my, in front of my phone, in my car that said, shut up and listen, because I thought it just meant I was talking too much. But there's another level of listening. I mean, there's the first obvious, like, can you really just listen to the person in front of you and really give them space and hear them, because people just want to be heard. But then there's the bigger part of, can you hear whether it's, that higher power, whether it's what's the deepest yearning in your soul. And for that, you need that space. And I get so concerned nowadays because people just don't have space anymore. They're always thumbing through their phone and listening to something. And so this year, I have made it like my commitment that I was going to become a meditator. And I have failed in the past. I failed at yoga and meditation. So this has been the year that I've done yoga and meditation. And it has been quite a shift for me. And when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm like all in, right? They say, if you want to take the island, you got to burn all the boats. The boats were singed, they're ash. But I went to these Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long retreats. In fact, I've got another one scheduled in another couple weeks because I knew that I needed accountability and community and then the right method that would work for me. So that is what I've been up to. And a really hard yoga teacher, man. Wow.
Yeah, we all need those really hard teachers every now and
then. Right? Well, here's a funny one. We decided we're going to do yoga, so we thought we'd hacked the system. We found this yoga class that had people who were like 70 plus and a lot of men. And men, most men are not as flexible as women, let's be real. And although some of these 70-year-old women were kicking my butt, in fact, most of them really were, to be honest. But we thought it was gentle yoga. We thought we were just so good. And then we went to a hot yoga class in Encinitas, California, and got our butts kicked. Yep, we got religion. So then now we're challenging ourselves.
Love it. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. One of your New York bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, the JJ Virgin Diet. You talk about food intolerances. And I want to know if you can break that down a little bit for folks who may not know what that is and how it affects your body.
Okay, here's what's fun. Everything that I've ever done is kind of like clients have shown me what the heck it is. So I used to teach a course for doctors called Overcoming Weight Loss Resistance. And it was when I was on Dr. Phil, he had a chapter in his book called Weight Loss Resistance. And he talked about insulin resistance, but I looked and I went, gosh, there's so many things that could get in the way of you losing weight and cause you to gain weight, right? And one of them happens to be your gut. Now, we know that if you want to lose weight and if you want to fix your health, kind of the first place to start is what's at the end of your fork. And so one of the things that I started to do with that training was to teach doctors how to use a food sensitivity test in their office. And this is something, it's different than an allergy, and that's why we're calling it an intolerance. And I used a little poetic license there because it really could be something that you react to because of genetics, that's lactose intolerance, or because of a delayed immune response, an IgG4 response, and that would be more like a casein dairy sensitivity, or it could be a hormonal issue like the insulin resistance that can come from dairy. So I said, I'm going to pull them all together into this intolerance. But what I started to see when I was doing this testing that would look at delayed food sensitivities is that the same foods always showed up. And in the world of nutrition, we had a tool called an elimination diet. And I never understood this elimination diet because it had all these things that I didn't see people reacting to very much, like citrus and strawberries and shrimp. Those were more the outliers when I looked at it. And what I saw all the time on this testing was that dairy and eggs were the top every single time. And then corn, soy, and peanuts. Of course, gluten was a different type of test, but what I noticed, and I'll tell you why in a moment, that when I pulled gluten out, like people felt so much better and so fast. And boy, if you can help someone feel better fast, and help them lose some weight fast, then they're in the game. Most people have tried, it's not for lack of trying, it's just that nothing seems to be working for them. So at first I was teaching people to pull out because when I'd send people off to take this test, it took 3 weeks to come back. And so while I was waiting for the test results, I would have them pull out gluten, dairy, eggs, corn, soy, peanuts. But what would happen is they started to have such good results that by the time the test came back, I was like, we don't actually need to do the test, because if we just pull these foods out, and I'll explain sugar in a second, and totally give your body a chance to detoxify, then swap those foods for things that help heal the gut, because that's why food intolerance happens. Then you can go back and try each of these foods to see if a food works for you or if it doesn't, and ultimately turn you into being your body's nutritionist. So food intolerance happens mainly because of a phenomenon called leaky gut. And that is where your small intestine becomes more permeable than it should be, quite often because of stress. So think what the last year and a half have done to people, but stress is a biggie. Genetically modified foods, a lot of different pain medications can do this. But another couple biggies are gluten. Gluten can make your gut more permeable. It causes the release of a protein called zonulin that makes your gut more permeable. And fructose, which now we have like fructose, agave syrup and high fructose corn syrup and apple juice concentrate put into so many of these processed foods. So you've got these things that are creating more gut permeability. Then you look at processed foods that are made up of dairy, gluten, eggs, corn, soy, and peanuts. And then, you know, when you look at it, if you want to heal your gut and stop this, you got to consider sugar and artificial sweeteners. When I first started taking the foods out, I didn't take sugar and artificial sweeteners out because they weren't that type of intolerance response, right? And then I realized if you didn't take those out, that's what people added in. I was like, no. Yeah. So those have to come out too. So the whole thing is to take those out for at least 3 weeks to cool down the fires. You're detoxifying from some of these things that are in processed foods that are so toxic, whether it's the glyphosates and gluten as a great example, or some of the GMOs doing gut damage, or artificial sweeteners that change your gut microbiome can change you into being having poor blood sugar tolerance in a week, by the way, because they change your gut microbiome. So you do that for at least 3 weeks. You swap out for healing foods, and then you go back and challenge to see how you do with each of those foods, right? Simple process where you connect the dots. You become your own nutritionist. You connect the dots. You're using a diet therapeutically, not dieting as a hobby. I'm actually anti-diet. I believe in diets short-term to use them so that you can then take that information and put it into your daily routine. Not that you're going to be on something forever, because no one will do it.
Right.
And they're not that expensive. Food sensitivity tests are very affordable depending on your situation. They're accessible, so highly encourage folks to take it.
But they may not even need them, and that's what's so interesting. Like what I have people do is do this first, pull those foods out, go through that process of 3 weeks or more, and then if you're still not where you want to be with your health and you feel that there's a food reaction going on, then do the food sensitivity test. But you may not need to.
Right.
So, right?
So after you've eliminated that, we're actually going through a little bit of a 90-day elimination ourselves from many of the things that you mentioned. So you eliminate that, you're feeling great, right? You get to the end, you're doing you're challenging, and you still realize like, yeah, all right, yeah, when I start adding the sugar back, I do feel kind of sluggish, or whatever those reactions you may be feeling. What are some healthy swaps? Like, okay, I still want to be able to have I'm a sweet tooth for sure. So yes, every now and then, like I want to be able to have a good dessert. What's a good healthy swap for something like sugar? Definitely don't want artificial sweeteners, but what are some sweeteners that you do recommend for a sweet tooth every now and then?
All right. Well, amen to no artificial sweeteners. I don't know how those ever got, well, they should never have been approved. Right. Like it's not food, it's artificial, it's synthetic. There you go. So after I wrote the Virgin Diet, I wrote the Sugar Impact Diet, because the biggest question people asked after that was like, well, what about sugar? I can't. It seemed like people either said, I can't, I'm controlled by it because, it's our number one recreational drug of choice, or so I can't quit it, or I have a sweet tooth, which could be due to stress. It could be because you're eating an imbalanced diet. It could be because of your gut microbiome. You maybe have a overgrowth of yeast. It could be genetic. So there's all these different reasons we could have a sweet tooth. So I was like, all right, now I'm going to tackle sugar and how to think about sugar differently and how to lower your sugar impact. The first important thing to know is that all carbohydrates except for fiber turn into sugar. It's just a matter of, are you mainlining this? Maybe because you're being duped by the label that says no sugar added, and you just had something with apple juice concentrate, which, by the way, apple juice has more fructose than soda. So are you being duped by your information there? So what we look at with this is we want to lower your sugar impact by looking at, with these carbs, we want to make sure you don't mainline, right? You don't eat things that are just loaded with sugar, that you're eating things that are carbs and fiber that will slowly release the sugar to you. There is a huge difference between, say, an apple and apple juice, right? In terms of how quickly your body takes that and turns it into sugar. Huge difference between lentils. I'll use a great example, blueberries and raisins. Huge difference. So we want to make sure that you're taking carbohydrates that your body can make sugar slowly from. So that's one of the first things I look at, is doing a sneaky sugar inventory, seeing where sugar's sneaking in the ketchups, in the marinara sauces, in the diet, the low fat, which is code for high sugar dressings that turn your salad into a sundae, where all the places it's sneaking in. So that's the first thing, because every time you eat sugar, your brain goes, ooh, and exposure equals preference. Like, what do you want when you eat sweet? You want more sweet, right?
Yeah.
Right. So part of it's retraining your body to appreciate natural sweetness of a blueberry or cinnamon. And part of it is starting to appreciate sour and spicy and salty. And hint, here's a hack. Sour actually tastes your sweet tooth away. Having more fermented foods can take your sweet tooth away. So that's the first part. But let's say genetically, you're one of those people who, and when I was on Freaky Eaters, I used to run genetic tests on all the people in the shows, because we had people who just genetically had sweet tooths. If they ate sweet, that like lit everything up, and they'd want more sweet and more sweet or more sweet, right? And it's almost like you're in a concert where the music, the music keeps getting louder and you don't notice it, because you're just kind of, your hearing has gone down a bit. So what we want to do first is make sure that you are getting out the sugar that's sneaking into silly little places. Again, like that yogurt that has the fruit on the bottom with the syrup. It's just junk. So you're looking at things and making sure that you're not getting sugar in the foods you're eating, which basically, when you move away from dirty processed foods, helps a lot. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure at each meal you're eating by the plate, where you're getting clean protein from things like grass-fed beef and wild fish and pastured pork and chicken, and healthy fats from like avocados and olives and olive oil and coconut and wild fish, and then loads of fiber from lots of non-starchy vegetables and a little bit of slow low carbs, things like berries and wild rice and lentils. So that's the first thing, because that helps with satiety and keeping your blood sugar balanced. So that is super important, because quite often I find people are craving sugar because their blood sugar is unstable. And if you've been eating all throughout the day, you fell into this diet myth that we're supposed to snack all throughout the day and eat every couple hours. Every time you eat, you raise blood sugar. If you raise blood sugar, you raise insulin. Your blood sugar comes down, but your insulin stays up. So if you eat every couple hours, you basically lock the doors to your fat cells, so you cannot burn stored fat for fuel. So you're reliant on incoming all the time, and it'll make you crave sugar. So that's the first thing we're making sure, is that you're stopping that you're drinking a lot of water in between your meals, that you're getting good sleep, because if you don't sleep well, you'll be more insulin resistant, higher insulin, and you'll crave more sugar, that you're doing things for stress, because when you're stressed, you lower serotonin, you crave sugar. And then we look at, all right, what are some of the things that we can do to help you if you do want to have a little something, because hey, this isn't like we can't have any of this. I will tell you that I, for Thanksgiving this year, made the best pumpkin cheesecake, and it was gluten-free, dairy-free, and no sugar.
I'm listening.
Right? I know. Lean in. So what I did was I used a cereal called Catalina Crunch, and I used that as the crust. They have a honey graham one. So I crushed that up and I put some ghee, and ghee is basically butter that's gotten the casein taken out of it. So it's just the oil, none of the proteins that cause that food sensitivity response. So I did that, and I used a little bit of a sweetener. Now, sweeteners that are allowable are allulose, monk fruit, and stevia are my favorite ones to use. Erythritol, the sugar alcohol, can be good too. Those are the ones I tend to look at. So I used a little bit, I think, of monk fruit and allulose in there. And then I browned that for 8 minutes. Then I took Kite Hill almond ricotta cheese and Kite Hill almond cream cheese. This is probably the most expensive cream cheese you will ever make. I'm just giving you a heads up. It's like ridiculous. But 3 of the 8 ounces of the almond ricotta, 2 of the 8 ounces of the almond cream cheese. Actually, reverse that. 3 of the cream cheese, 2 of the almond ricotta. Then I put in 2 eggs because I'm not egg intolerant. So if someone's not egg intolerant, they can do this. And then I put in a half a cup of sweetener blend, again, of the allulose and monk fruit, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of pumpkin pie extract, and 16 ounces of pumpkin pie filling. Actually, no, just straight pumpkin puree. And I baked that at 350 for 30 minutes. Then I turned it down to 300 for another 20. And I'll tell you what, that is like, and it's in a springform pan. Best thing. But that is an example. Like, we also use a keto brownie mix that my son will use Lily's dark chocolate stevia sweetened chocolate chips and that keto brownie mix to make a sugar-free dark chocolate ganache brownie that's insane and amazing. You can also make, I'll just get coconut cream. Arroyo makes one in an aseptic pack that I'll put in the fridge. You take it out of the fridge, you drain all the liquid, then you take the coconut part of it. I save a little liquid just in case I need to make it a little bit lighter, but I will put in a little bit of whatever sweetener, and you don't need much, and a little bit of vanilla extract, and I'll make a great whipped cream. So you can do that whipped cream, and you could take that with some dark chocolate chips and some berries and make just a yummy little special dessert. Mm-hmm. So delicious. Has 1 gram of sugar, ice creams, butter pecan, chocolate mint, vanilla, and chocolate. So there's another thing. So, I mean, there's stuff that you can do. Like, there's amazing things that you can find out there. And I've got a bunch. I've got recipes in my cookbooks too for desserts. I have another recipe for dark chocolate avocado mousse that's amazing, which it's just dark chocolate and avocado and coconut cream and a little bit of your preferred sweetener. That's it. So easy enough to do these things. And by the way, Sinclair, those are also healthy that you could have them for breakfast.
I love it.
Right? No one's suffering. And that's the thing. Here's the thing. It's really just learning how to do things differently. Like, that's why I focus on swaps instead of pulling things out. When I first started taking people through what became the Virgin Diet, I just had them pull things out. And oh my gosh, the things they would put in, I was like, what is that? I didn't tell you to do that. And so all of a sudden I went, I'm going to go to swaps instead. It is not drop these, it's swap these. And so everything is focused on, okay, so if you've been eating a yogurt every morning, try a Kite Hill Greek style almond vanilla unsweetened yogurt, right? Easy enough to do.
Right. And I love the concept of the swaps, because I think something that we stand by is you can live a healthy lifestyle while still living a good and fun lifestyle.
Yeah.
And while we started TH4 back in 2016, when we were just, kids, basically, young ones.
You're still kids.
Thank you very much.
By the way,
I'll hide this gray hair that I got growing. But the goal was like, how can we shift our family culture, right? Because we did have high rates of diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease within our family and prevalent within the African diaspora. And we were just thinking, how can we shift our habits, shift what we eat to help our families and the people around us? So can you talk, kind of getting back to Warrior Mom, can you talk about how as moms assume their warrior identity, as they take part, as they lean into their superpower, how that impacts the entire family, how that impacts generations, kids, uncles, like down, everybody within the family can be impacted by this warrior mom really tapping into her superpower.
I love that you are tackling this too, because they're just, every culture has its genetic predispositions and issues. So I always look at this and go, man, dairy, sugar, and vitamin D are really important on this one. So, when you look at it, for the most part, women are the healthcare CEO of their family, right? We are really tend to be the ones, and back when I used to work a lot one-on-one with clients, half my clients were men, but it was because their wives would say, you got to go do this. So You know, it was, I found the men tended to comply a lot more because their wife just put the stuff out for them and they just did it. I was like, you know, they don't have to deal with all the other stuff. But, you know, when you look at this, you'll hear so often that right now, and I'll just give you some statistics right now because they're horrifying, really. And I remember hearing that if we didn't stop doing what we were doing, by the year 2030, our country would be 100% diabetic. And I thought, that is ridiculous. There's no chance. However, we are right now a country that's 76% overweight or obese. And apparently, I just did a podcast interview with a doctor who said, you know, only 12% of the population right now is metabolically healthy. And by metabolically healthy, it was, you know, optimal levels of blood pressure, weight, waist measurement, blood sugar, cholesterol, right? I mean, so when you look at this, you go, holy smokes, is this really happening? And did the last year and a half just put the, you know, accelerator on it? It's like, right? And so you'll hear so often that, oh, we're where we are because of our genetics. However, the turn of the 19th century, 1/2 of 1%, so 1/2% of the population was obese. 1/2%. Genes don't change in 120 years.
Right.
So is it genetics or is it this crappy processed food, the total stress we're under, the toxins we're assaulted with, you know, the ridiculousness of all this tech and the poor sleep and lack of movement and all this stuff, right? So what is really going on? And when I was on Dr. Phil, they had us do a teen challenge to try to get our teens help because they already saw, like right now, it's 1 in 5 kids are obese. 1 in 5 kids are obese. When I was growing up, there was like one girl in school who was probably 20 pounds overweight, and she was the rarity. So 1 in 5 kids are obese. So we decided to do a teen challenge, but the challenge wasn't with the teens. It was their parents. So we were kind of going head scratcher. Do we start with the parent? Do we start with the kid? Then we tried to take over school, but then the companies the school had contracts with went after us, you know? So we were like, wait, you got vending machines with sodas in them. I was like, what do we do here? Well, it's got to start somewhere. And if there's the right person for the job, it's the warrior mom in the middle. And here's what I would say, right? So, you know, here I am as a mom, and my kids at first, my kids had never had cereal. They would have things like, you know, a burger patty for breakfast or some chicken, and then they go to my mom's house and they come home and they go, we had Honey Nut Cheerios. Wow. And I'm like, oh, great. You know, ruined. So, but your kids, you think they're not paying attention. You think they're not listening, but your kids are paying attention to everything. So number one, if you want your kids to eat healthy, you know what you have to do?
Yep, eat healthy.
Right. Yeah, they're going to do what you do. If you want them to move more, you got to move more. So it's got to be part of your family culture. And then if you want them to get excited about all this, gosh, when the pandemic hit, one of the biggest things that we discovered is that people don't know how to cook. Mm-hmm. Like they have no idea they know how to reheat. That is not cooking. So you get them to start helping you. You want your kids to eat vegetables? Have them help you. Have them pick it out. Help you prepare it. And you know what? The first time they might spit it out. Maybe they'll spit out the second time and the third time, but you just keep exposing them to it and keep building on the repertoire of what they'll eat. I mean, if left to my own devices, my kids would have lived on cheese pizza and chicken fingers, you know, and French fries and cheeseburgers. Like that's what a kid would do. I think you go to the restaurant and that's kid menu. I'm like, that's a travesty. Right. But you just keep exposing them to it. And all of a sudden, like I look at my sons are amazing cooks. They're super healthy. I kept saying, you know, like one of them I had gluten-free, dairy-free. It was non-negotiable because of some emotional stuff that he had going on. But the other one was like, you know, kept getting migraines. And I go, you know, you stop the gluten and dairy, the migraines go away. And when he went to college, he immediately stopped because he couldn't mess around with them anymore. And they went away. So, you just keep putting it out there. You are the role model. It is the single most important thing, is for you to be the role model. And if you are in a, community where you're the only one doing it, and I got flack the other day because I said, what we know now is obesity is contagious. And that you can catch it from your friends. There was a study that came out that showed that even if your best friend lived across the country, if he or she was overweight or obese, you would tend to be pretty much the same as them. And so I said, because I don't know if you heard that Jim Rohn quote of, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with, right? So I said, hey, if you want to, people ask me when they lose weight, how they maintain it. And I said, if you want to be in better shape, find fitter friends. And someone's like, you ruined my day. You just told me to get rid of my friends. I go, no, I didn't. I told you to find a community that's going to support your goals, who's aspirational. And then, hey, be a great friend, reach back and bring the people who are ready to go with you. I didn't say dump your friends, but I did say put yourself in a situation where you're going to be around people who inspire you, who you aspire to be with, because I'm pretty sure those fitter people are not hanging out on the sofa, eating cupcakes and drinking a soda. They're probably out doing other stuff. So that was a long diatribe of, yes, moms, it's got to start with you. And sometimes that can be a challenge when everyone around you is not so into that. I think a family meeting is great, but I think also sometimes you can sneak a lot of this in and no one will be the wiser. And that's quite often what I'll do. I'll say, hey, just start swapping some of this stuff in. It actually tastes better than a lot of the stuff they've been eating already. No one's going to go, oh my gosh, ew, you made gluten-free lasagna.
As long as it's tasting good, they'll be all right. And speaking of you are the average of the 5 people that you are around. Shout out to our 5 live listeners and watchers that are here. We appreciate y'all tuning in, getting this amazing content from JJ Virgin. If you want to learn more, if you want to get one of her books, including one of the newest, Warrior Mom, you want to gift it to somebody for the holidays, you want to gift it to somebody for Mother's Day, go ahead and go to jjvirgin.com, get yourself a copy of Warrior Mom and learn about the 7 secrets to be bold, brave, and resilient. Queen.
Yes.
I know you got at least one last question that you want to give as we prepare for our future, as we manifest. Go ahead.
Yes. So speaking of Warrior Mom, right? We ourselves, as well as we have, a lot of friends who are, newly married or newly engaged. And so we're going to be, coming into that season where it will be time to start our families. So, as an aspiring mother, yes, I have to say, like, this is not an announcement every time.
It sounds like an announcement.
We get the question at least once a week. But what is maybe the top couple of things that you recommend for a woman to be doing to kind of prepare her body for, conception, but also the pregnancy and the birth of their first child?
So about 20 years ago, I was asked to teach a course on prenatal nutrition. And here's what happened. I start to write this course and I realized, oh, wait a minute. This is not about prenatal nutrition. This is about preconception nutrition.
Right.
And it is so key to me that at least a year before you start trying to get pregnant, you detoxify your body, because those toxins get passed straight over to the fetus. So you got to get the toxins out. So you need to really start to do good detox strategies, things like sauna, dry brushing, lots of fiber, and testing yourself and potentially working with the functional medicine practitioner. But good detoxification, really then making sure that you've corrected any nutrient imbalances. You're taking a good prenatal ahead of time. One of the gals in my Mindshare community, who's amazing, created something called the Primester Protocol. And her name is Dr. Cleopatra Camperveen. You guys should check her out. You should have her on the show. She is incredible.
Can you connect?
Helping create super babies. But that's her whole thing, is that you've got to, we don't think about that. We think, oh, okay, I'm pregnant. Now I need to make sure I've got the right nutrients on board. And no. You need to get the right nutrients on board, detoxify your body, get super healthy before that. And also make sure that your house is clean, your house is detoxified, you don't have mold in your house, or any of these other things that you're not using toxic cleaning products. So detoxify, increase that really good, I was making sure Cleopatra was spelled right. You've got that really good nutrients on board, that you're exercising, and that you've got a really good mental attitude. It's interesting. When I was pregnant with my first baby, I was under ridiculous stress. And that can get past your baby. I still am like, were some of his emotional things because of me? Because moms will do that. We will blame ourselves forever. But it is so important to really learn how to work through stress, to have some kind of a practice in place, prayer, meditation, whatever that thing is for you, so that you can work through that. Because again, your body is not yours when you are pregnant. So you are preparing to have a body that is the best body it possibly can be to carry a baby. And the other cool book that I read, literally I read this, 26 years ago, is The Secret Life of the Unborn Child. Wow. And it is all about what that baby could be feeling when this baby is inside of you. And then the other side is just, it is the greatest, like being pregnant and giving birth is one of the coolest experiences. It is like it's the definition of being a woman, is to be able to do that. It is so, and then nursing a baby, it is incredible. So it's a very exciting time in life, and just make sure you can never prepare for it. You think you can. That's hilarious. And then you have a baby, I remember thinking, oh no, I'll just put the baby over here and I'll just work and it'll be fine. And I'll put it in nap here. And it's like, yeah, right. Baby's in charge. You're not in charge.
Yes. We literally have had those types of conversations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you brought up, one of your community members, Dr. Cleopatra, who's a part of Mindshare, which we hadn't had a time too much to talk about. I know Mindshare is one of your, metaphorical babies that you've put out and manifest into the universe. What can people do if they want to learn more about Mindshare, and who is Mindshare for?
Mindshare started because I was feeling very lonely as a health expert entrepreneur, and I wanted to have friends to share best practices with and support each other. And so it started with a couple of us having lunch at Brendan Burchard's marketing events, and turned into a huge annual conference and a virtual conference, and training programs on how to do multiple streams of income and how to build your brand, and coaching programs. So if you are a health expert, a doctor, nutritionist, health coach, mindsharecollaborative.com has got all of the information. But it's really because, in fact, it's funny, they say the number one subject line in emails that gets opened is the subject line, "You are not alone." And it was, us wanting to have a place to get together. And what I think is most cool about this group is it is truly diverse, in that we have chiropractors, nutritionists, health coaches, medical doctors, naturopaths. I was like, and they all get along. Vegans, paleos. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'll definitely be looking into that. I'm excited to look into that. But we just want to truly, truly thank you for joining us here today. This has been a very powerful episode. And hopefully we have a lot of folks who've been on live, so hopefully we've been able to take these nuggets of wisdom and take them and apply them to their lives. So again, we thank you so much for joining us here. We know we've got a busy schedule, and we appreciate you taking out the time to join us here at the True Health Forever podcast.
Yes. All right. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you guys including me.
Of course.
Again, go to jjvirgin.com, get yourself one of the books. She also has e-courses, programs out there. You care about your health, your loved ones, and want to impact the next generation, definitely take that seriously. All right. All right, JJ Virgin, we appreciate you. We are going to do some updates. If you need to go, definitely feel free. But if you would like to go first on updates, you can go first and then transition as well.
I'm updating.
Any last words you have? I know your update may be an hour long, but just like words for the amazing people that are watching.
So here are my amazing words. You two are just such a great example. It is challenging enough to be a couple, and then to be a couple who works together is a whole next level. So I commend you guys because you are just have such great energy together and just are a great role model of a couple who works and can work together. So yay for both of you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Right.
All
Have a
right.
beautiful day. Oh, Queen, well done. We did that. Right. That was a really good interview.
It was.
I'm
It
looking
was.
forward to the replay. Shout out to the 5 folks that are still watching live. We are now going to get into the Ask Declare segment. Typically, we ask our guests, they can ask us any question about our relationship, our health, or our business. But since we have folks watching live, we're going to give this opportunity to you. Any questions you have, you can type it into the live chat and we can bring it up on the podcast. So while y'all do that, Queen,
King.
up the Queen,
King.
Queen.
King.
No, we too far in. Updates on your side. What you got for us?
One, we have free coaching sessions, free health coaching sessions available.
Yep.
But this is the last week that they will be available. So definitely go and get yours at truehealthforever.com. Start of the year. We'll have or maybe not the start of the year, but sometime in January, we're going to be launching a new program specifically for queens. So I'm excited for that. But yes, take advantage of the free health coaching sessions, the 30-minute sessions that we have available right now at truehealthforever.com. Go schedule yours.
There it is. There it is. And while y'all figure out that question, for me, updates. Yesterday was a beautiful and powerful day.
It was.
We
proud of you, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll ask why you were proud in a second. Just to continue to fill my cup. You know, just tell me why. Woo! But we did a voiceover session recording of the Black History Adventures of Rose and Rodney. This was my first time doing any type of voice acting or directing in a space. This was the Queen's first time singing, using her vocals, acted on camera. We had my dad there, little sister, a lot of other dope people came through, Jair, Joy, Laura. It was just a good family event and friend event. And yeah, I'm excited to see what this project can turn into. Excited to see what next levels of Rose and Rodney we can do. And getting into film has been a long-term thing for me. So I'm just excited to take that small step forward. So yeah, it was a beautiful day yesterday. Of course, you can go to playblackwallstreet.com to get yourself a board game. No, it will not make it for the holidays. All right, I'm sorry. I'm getting emails, I'm getting DMs like, can you ship to London by Christmas?
Look, we've been trying to tell y'all.
I cannot. Look, I'm not even going to try to front like, yeah, we can do it to get the order and then we don't make it. Like, that's not how I operate in business. That's not how we operate in business. So I will say truthfully, no, we cannot make it to London, to New York, to maybe even LA. We can't guarantee it by Christmas. I'm not going to be the Grinch. So if you still want it, definitely order your game. It will get there after Christmas and you can still have a beautiful family game night. It will be there for Black History Month. You can have an empowering, intentional family game night during Black History Month as well. So go to playblackwallstreet.com and go ahead and get your game. Okay. No questions came in. So Queen, my question for you is, why are you proud of me?
I'm proud of you because, as you just said, because you just as you just said, like creating movies, getting into the film industry, I know is a big dream of yours.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, it's like the first little step in the door to make that happen. So really just proud that you're like manifesting it to the fullest. We've been talking about Rose and Rodney for a while. You wrote it, you got the book out. You've shouted out Walter in it, all of these different things that just make me truly proud. You're an inspiration to thousands, if not millions in the future for sure. But for sure, you're the biggest inspiration to me. I get to call you. I'm your biggest fan. Sorry, y'all. I'm your biggest fan. But yeah, so I'm so blessed to be able to see the inspiration, wake up next to the inspiration every day. It's like, how can I not be successful? Look at you.
Average 5 people.
Exactly.
It is. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
Is your cup full?
My cup is full. It doesn't look full because y'all can't see the positive frequencies that are in here, but they still get digested all the same. All right. So we appreciate y'all as usual for tuning in to amazing, impactful, a positive, high frequency episode of the True Health Forever podcast, where we shall live our best life through the lens of holistic health. I'm your host, De'Von Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
I'm Sinclair, aka Theee Health Nerd.
We hope y'all stay healthy. We hope y'all stay mentally wealthy. And of course, we hope y'all stay true.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Health Forever podcast. We hope you learned something valuable that you can take and implement into your life. Now, we've all heard that sharing is caring, and this podcast is no exception. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a stranger walking down the street, anybody who you think can level up from this message. As always, we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you next week. Be well.